Night Nation, I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF, joined by Eric Lopez of the Black and Gold Banneret. Welcome into Around the Kingdom. Elo, hello, did you miss me?
Trace, we're gone? I didn't notice. Coming up on the fastest UCF show around. Hey, spring practice is officially underway. What would be a successful spring for UCF football? Hey, are you excited about the spring space game on a Friday night? What happened to UCF basketball this season? What happened to UCF softball in Arizona? We'll break it all down coming up on this edition of Around the Kingdom.
Before we get going with all of that, Elo, let us welcome in the third member of our team, Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF, keeps an eye on the clock, keeps us on our toes. Adam, did you miss me?
Trylko, I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad to have football back this week, although I can't wait until you see all the prop bets you lost because you weren't here last week.
Gotcha. And I want to thank Jeff Allen for filling in ably on Around the Kingdom last week. Elo, it is here. I know you may not be a big fan of spring football, but it is football, and it gets underway this week. Spring camp, part 2, under head coach Scott Frost.
How much action are we going to get? 10 minutes? 20?
But what would you consider success this spring camp for UCF
health?
And Scott Frost?
Let's start with health, right? We don't want to hear about anybody's significant injuries. I think that's always number one. Everything else, I don't think we're going to learn a lot. I know you're going to dig in there with your investigative journalism and get to the bottom of who's in the depth chart, but the reality is we're not going to learn anything. We're not going to learn anything. They're not going to tell us anything. I do think you'll meet some players. Everybody's going to tell you how everything's awesome. Everything, hey, we're transitioning. We're getting used to each other. I don't think we're going to learn anything, but I do think the positive vibes will be a positive. But again, no significant injuries. Hopefully you hear some buzz about a player. Man, this player's looking pretty good. Will that happen? We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you on health. I'd also like to see them gel a little bit more and get a little bit into that Scott Frost offense and just really get acclimated to one another. I think that would be a successful outcome this spring.
Well, it wouldn't be a UCF football spring without some quarterback chatter. How wide open will this competition be, Trace, do you believe?
You know, I think that the camp that says because Scott Frost brought in Tavon Jackson, that it's a done deal, that he's QB1, and I think that's wrong. I think it is kind of wide open. I mean, we're not really going to know, to your point, right? They're not going to tip their hands on a depth chart, but I consider it pretty wide open. I think that no one has a clear lead in this one, right? And why not Dylan Risco? Why not Ja'Cory Brown? I mean, limited sample size for both of them under a completely different offense a season ago with Gus Malzahn. So why not? Anyone can seize control of that job. And you got to think that the coaching staff would like to see someone emerge as a leader coming out of spring.
I agree 100%. I think people forget this. In Scott's first year, Mackenzie Milton was not the starter. It was Justin Holman, a holdover. And it wasn't until he got hurt where he decided to burn the red shirt of Mackenzie Milton and play him. So to your point, I think it's wide open. May the best man win. I do think this staff will get to know this quarterback staff. I also would not count out Ja'Cory Brown necessarily because he's still around, and Scott at once upon a time did recruit him as well. I actually think this thing is open more than just two guys. I'm not suggesting Brown's going to win the job, but I do think it's a wide open job, at least in the spring.
Elo, it's March. How many quarterbacks do the Knights play in the 2025 season? We'll clip and save that one. It can't possibly be 4.
Let's hope not. It's not 4. It's going to be rough. I'll tell you that. So, I'm optimistic, and I think that's obviously where all the attention will be at the quarterbacks. What's going to be interesting, too, is which quarterbacks do we hear from throughout the spring? That could be an interesting telling sign one way or the other as far as who's been made available, who's not, and what's kind of the chatter.
Well, you talked about who's made available. We will see some more availability, not only in terms of media, but in terms of practice. Open practices, Elo. Likely instead of a spring game, has been loosely defined for several seasons, opening with April 5th and then again April 11th. What do you think of that? Fans having opportunity to see the team in action in practice.
Yeah, I love it. Bravo. I love it. I don't know what took so long. Look, I don't know what we're going to see, but I think it's a smart move. I think you would agree the days of the spring game are dead.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about UCF, but across the board, there's more and more schools canceling that. And I think that's smart. And I think practice, you're going to get your diehards there. It'll be interesting how they handle that. Who do they allow in? Do you have to RSVP, morning practice versus how much do you show? But I like it because I think as a fan base, the ones that are going to go to practice, it feels more intimate. You feel like you're part of something pretty cool versus going to a stadium to watch a spring game. I really love this idea a lot.
Yeah, and Adam Eaton wrote recently some changes that athletics could make, and more access for fans and not just donors. You got to do things for the donors and the money that supports the program, but more accessibility, I think, is a good thing overall for UCF.
Adam Eaton can join us at this open practice, huh? Let's make that happen, Adam. You called it out. Let's go at practice because you may not be able to watch go to the space game this year because the space game is now on a weeknight. They got moved to the Friday night slot for the part of the Fox TV package. UCF at Houston, they're bringing it out as, hey, let's showcase this. Do you like the move, Trace, of the space game UCF at Houston being moved to a Friday night?
I don't really care. I do think it's a better game at night than a midday game on ESPN Plus. So I think that's a positive. But I think a couple weeks back, we're talking about fans dumping their tickets, and it's not the most fan friendly to have an opener on a Thursday, another game on a Friday. College football was built for Saturdays, but goes to show you, Elo, TV rules the day. They'll move games when and where they need to. No better example of that than those 6-day holds that give you no idea how to plan your life.
Well, we all have trouble planning our lives for many reasons beyond a 6-day hold. But you're right. TV controls all this. You know what I'm interested in? The last couple of years, UCF has scheduled their Hall of Fame weekend around the space game. The Hall of Fame would take place Friday night, football game on Saturday. Now, with the space game on Friday night, does that bump the Hall of Fame to a different date possibly, or do they try to do it on that Saturday night? I think that changes interesting minor stuff. But overall, I'm good with it. I'm like you. I don't care. I actually I like the Friday night games because then I can just stay home and watch football elsewhere on Saturday.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you on that, as that it does open up.
I'm very selfish about that. I acknowledge that some fans disagree with it.
All about what we want.
Correct.
Kilo. You like to build this as the fastest UCF show around. I do think we're setting a record. I've never brought the silly game in under 10-minute mark, but today we do so. We bring back in Adam. 8 minutes in, Adam.
I was confused. Yeah, I'm not sure to miss anything. And if you don't go to Alumni Hall, you won't miss anything either, by the way. Alumni Hall is your official stop for UCF theme merchandise, 4100 North Althea Trail, or you go check them out, alumnihall.com, search for UCF. They have shirts, they have hats, they have gear, knickknacks, everything you need for your UCF fan in your life. Again, Alumni Hall is the place for you. All right, gentlemen, this week's game is I'm going to give you something, and you tell me the word. We'll call this "What's the Word?" And this is going to be very basketball themed. So excuse me for all the football heads out there, right? Elo, I'm going to start with you, but I'm going to show you a picture. All right, what's the word to describe the Big 12 tournament court, which for those of you who can see appears to be loaded with the Roman numerals 12 all over the court itself. Very distracting. Elo, what's the word for this court?
Distracting. That's the word. It's just like you can't help but be distracted by the court. In fairness to the conference, maybe they wanted you to be distracted so you didn't have to watch the actual product of the women's basketball tournament. But anyway, that's just me.
Wow.
Did I say that out loud? I think I did.
You did say that out loud. Memorable.
Whoa. Memorable
is the word I'm going with. You will remember it when you see it, and your dizzied eyes will remember it long after you've watched the game on it.
Gents, today the Big 12 announced their basketball awards for men's hoops. Mustafa Cham not voted to the first team all-freshman Big 12 team. Trace Trylko, what's the word to describe Mustafa not being all-freshman team?
Travesty. UCF snubbed here. A travesty of justice. Better stats than some of his, colleagues, his, comrades there, the freshman class. So, travesty.
Fascinating. Why was he snubbed? That's what I want to know. I'm really interested in that because I'm not one that, sounds like Trace is going to conspiracy. Oh, they're out against us.
They're out to screw UCF, Elo.
Yeah, exactly. Why did they do it? Is it because UCF lost a lot of games, or did they see
Doesn't
something?
Help.
Or was it something that maybe Mustafa had some flaws defensively that they saw that maybe was part of the UCF defensive issues? I don't know. I was fascinated by this. I like more information. We know we're not going to get it. I agree. You should have at least gotten all freshmen. I don't get it, but I'm fascinated by it.
Last one for you, Elo. According to the Twitter account at the Real SCD, UCF is projected to be a 3 seed in the Crown tournament, gentlemen. The Crown bracketology, a 3 seed. Elo, what's the word for UCF being a 3 seed in the Crown?
I am disappointed in me and Trace. How did one of us not have this up as our projections here, Trace? What happened? We both dropped the ball on this. 3 seed. That sounds like we can make a deep run there. I mean, in Vegas, Trace, that Vegas has your name on it right there.
Were we still playing the one-word game? Huh? Huh? The Crown, a made-for-TV spectacle out in Las Vegas, where you two at 7-13 in the Big 12 could make a postseason tournament. Whatever.
All right, so I guess you won't tune in.
No, we'll be there. We need it. We need it for content. We need 2 minutes on the clock, Elo. Let's talk men's basketball.
Well, so obviously you're disappointed at that little projection. You're probably disappointed in the season overall, but obviously we got the basketball tournament here, the chance to redeem themselves here a little bit, Trace. Let's get with this a little bit here. They lost to West Virginia. Now they play Utah. I don't feel great about it. I think maybe they get past Utah, but I think that's it. Do you tell me? That's my thoughts. Where's your you're optimistic or pessimistic?
About getting past Utah? I'm a little more optimistic and remind folks that should UCF in the late game on Tuesday night, we're recording on a Monday night, get past Utah, who might the Knights face in that next round?
That would be Kansas.
Yeah, so it's really one and then done, and then prepare for the Crown. I would feel better about the season with a victory over Utah, who UCF beat a couple weeks back. That led to the dismissal of their head coach. That guy didn't see it coming because he was quite smiley in that post.
You talked to him. You were the last person to talk to him.
And then 12 hours later, he was done.
Yeah. If they win this game, it would clinch a winning season overall again.
Well, they're 16-15 now, but
they would clinch a winning season. And who knows if they play in that Crown. For those that don't know, the tournament that Adam was referring to is a Fox-made tournament that's going to be played in Vegas, 16 teams, that is going to be opposition to the NIT and try to take some teams like the Big 12 teams that didn't make the tournament, Big 10 teams, things like that for a TV event. It would take place from the end of March or April. I don't know if UCF would accept that or not. Who knows? But I think if they win against Utah and have a good representation, they will have a shot to at least get an invite. Whether they take it or not is a whole different story. But look, man,
I think they have a choice if that's a Fox event with the Big 12.
Exposure, right? I mean, it depends what your point of view. We may have to discuss this at overtime. I will say this: the reason I can't have any optimism is why do I think they're going to start playing defense now? And they're shorthanded in the backcourt, Trace.
Yeah. Why start now?
All right, so why now? So I'm going to ask you, I'm all hyped on the hoop stuff because I'm just jumping the gun and asking you questions here because I don't have an answer to this. I hope you have an answer for this, Trace. What went wrong this year?
It's certainly not the season that we expected, right? But it changed what we thought over the course of the season. I thought it might not be a promising season because of the mix of people that they were bringing in. 10, 11 new faces, a lot of guys out of the transfer portal. Would they come together and gel? But I'll tell you what, I really feel like the season changed when Jalen Sellers got hurt. I don't know how dramatically different the outcome would have been over the course of the season, but I think it changed the team, and certainly not in a positive way. I think they really missed Jalen Sellers.
I think they did miss Jalen Sellers. I think the thing that we're still trying to figure out with or without Sellers is what happened to the defense, why they couldn't guard people. And I go back. You
study basketball. You love the game of basketball. Mm-hmm. What do you see night in, night out? I mean, we talk to Ben Hazel every week on Sons of UCF Live. We've broken it down throughout the season. I mean, they just don't play defense well, right? They score. Is it me, guys? Are they just not putting in the effort?
I don't think they have good individual ball defenders like they have, like Shamari Miller, Allen was a great ball defender, right? A Drake Fuller type. They just didn't defend. They didn't have the extra size too. I think too much was. What did you have beyond Mustafa? That didn't help. And then you had in and out guys being out of the lineup for health reasons, etc. That probably didn't help either. But it's so bizarre, Trace. It's the most bizarre year ever because offensively, they scored enough, right? How many times did we keep saying, hey, if they score that many points, 70, 75, 80, they're going to win a lot of games.
I think
well, they
Adam
did a lot
had
of
the
that.
stat, Elo, that if there was a game where they lost by 25 at Iowa State, they scored 83. If they had scored 83, they'd won 11 more games last year if they'd scored 83 points. I mean, it's right. So they're what, one or two in the Big 12 in offense, but last in points allowed. I mean, it's just neither statistic makes sense under Johnny Dawkins in nearly 10 seasons.
Does not. It does not make any sense at all. It's still baffling, and I think we're still going to be all baffled by it moving forward. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, let's talk about that roster. Consider me skeptical going into the season that with a cast of characters, some with questionable backgrounds, right? Mikey Williams comes to mind. I wasn't sure the character, right? We talked about last chance you, next chance you. We didn't hear about anything off the court, Elo, this season. And that was a statement, about Johnny Dawkins. A lot of people said that he would be able to provide that fatherly figure, that role model, that mentorship. And, I tip my hat to the coaching staff and to the players. There didn't appear to be off the court issues like at least me, amongst others, thought might happen.
Yeah, you were skeptical going in. You were very skeptical. And from what we understand, we didn't hear any issues. Again, you may have had some injuries here and there, but nothing significant that would certainly be there. And I think that's the respect that Coach Dawkins brings out of his players. And if you're a player, you got a second chance. You're not going to want to disappoint Johnny Dawkins. And I think that's a credit to Johnny and to the players from that standpoint. You wish, could a couple of these guys been healthier, etc. Maybe they'd be even better on the court, but certainly off the court, they've been pretty good and probably it's been quiet. Remember, because all the hoopla before the year, oh, wow, I don't know if they're taking a chance here. It's all been quiet. It's been very good.
I mean, in that regard, it certainly has.
All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the big dramatic moments, ladies and gentlemen. And that
17 minutes into the show, Elo. We're discussing a coach's
On 3 Sports says Johnny Dawkins is on the hot seat. Whoa, On 3. What a great job by them.
Hey, they're good in the graphics department, Elo.
That's what I've heard. What's your thoughts here on Johnny and UCF?
If not for that 7-game losing streak, right? 7-13 in conference play. They had 7 wins a year ago, first year in the Big 12. It comes as no surprise to those that watch the show that know the two of us. I remain in that camp with Johnny Dawkins. I'm not sure what the timing for such a change would be. Adam and I speculating before, if it's a blowout loss to Utah, does that accelerate things? Or do you continue to give Coach Dawkins an opportunity to work within the Big 12? I remain adamant that the resources just aren't there, Elo. I think we're on point about that. And I'm not sure who you bring in with the resources. And the question remains for me, who amongst you watching are willing to part with dollars for basketball that you wouldn't want to first commit to football and head coach Scott Frost? And I just don't think that a change changes anything as outlined in various scenarios by Adam in this week's Cincy UCF newsletter. The options, right? Keep them, move on. Who you bringing in? What are you committing to it? I don't know what you change by changing the head coach.
Well, and Christian Simmons, who filled in on Suns Live, you weren't around either back then. I don't know what you were doing last week, but
work.
Got it. Alleged. But he said it. It could get worse, right? You can make a change, and it could get a lot worse. I think, to me, the basketball, I've written about this ad nauseum, is what is the big picture for basketball? Forget the coach. What is the big picture for basketball? Because, Trace, I've told this story a million times. I'll never forget, in December, a couple years ago, UCF loses on a half-court buzzer beater in Sunrise to Missouri. You know what people were more outraged about? About Travis Williams leaving, a defensive coordinator. What does that tell you?
It's a football first and arguably, football only school. Everything else trails a great deal behind. So we will see by the time you watch this, perhaps during the week, as this show has a shelf life throughout the week, maybe there's a change been made and We will be talking
Oh, you
about
know
it on all
something,
the
Trace?
Suns.
Do you know something?
No, I know nothing. I know nothing. I do know that in the Big 12 awards, Houston certainly racked up several. They have been great. That is a basketball first program, right? Houston, basketball, more important than football.
Helps when you have donors like Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Jim Nance, too, by the way. And
Your
others.
buddy, Jim Nance.
Hello, friends. 19-1 in the Big 12 for Houston. How about that? I never thought I'd see the day there. They should be a
Hey, they play good defense.
We saw that up close. We almost beat them, too. Big 12 looks like an 8-bid league, pretty much a lock at that point. I think teams like Kansas State, Cincinnati have to go deep in the Big 12 tournament or maybe win the tournament to get into the field. I think it's a pretty easy case for a Big 12 to get 8. I think Houston's a legitimate national title contender. I'm not sure beyond Houston if there's another Big 12 team that can get to the Final Four. I do think this tournament is important for Baylor, who, according to some bracketologists, are on the bubble. Maybe a win or two in the Big 12 locks up a spot for Baylor. But I think they're looking at 8 bids if Baylor can take care of business from the
Which
Big
is
12.
about what people thought going in, maybe 9, sure. Right? And, when we're talking about this crown, by the way, NIT's got a lot of brand recognition. Many, many years that tournament has been played. If you can establish something with a crown, there's some parity there? Does people want to just watch their teams continue on no matter?
That's what I keep hearing about bowl games. I hear people always, I love a bowl game done in December. Let's throw it out there in, Shreveport, Louisiana. Why can't basketball play a bunch of games in Vegas if football can, huh? What's the difference? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Hey, it's time to, speaking of crown, Trace,
brag. Go ahead, brag.
Time to crown yours truly, ladies and gentlemen, as the game within the game champion 2020.
Down to the wire, Elo.
Woo! I appreciate Darius Johnson. Awesome person to cover for 4 years and helping me out to get that final points there to win and edging out the great Adam Eaton, the great competitor who obviously kicking himself for taking Keyshawn Hall.
You edged me. You edged me by 2 points.
Yeah, you too. I expected to beat you.
You beat Adam by 3 and Andrew Trylko by 3. But since we're giving out accolades, could we say that my combination of Darius Mustafa and Devo Coleman, 603 points on the season, nearly 100 more than 100, right? Or nearly 100 more over your Keyshawn Hall, Benny Williams, Mikey Williams combination of 510 points on the season. I beat you by 100 points, Elo. And then there's also Adam at 229.
Did Adam accomplish the trifecta where none of his players played?
No. He had Taylor scored 12 points in the game against West Virginia. But Ivy Curry and Jalen Sellers, he ends up with 229 on the season.
Jalen Sellers, and then a week later he's out for the year. Do we blame Adam for Jalen Sellers this year? I don't know.
Sure. All right, hey, your favorite sport, softball. Whoa, what did we say? Get 1 on the road. They did better.
We doubled that up. We got 2 out of 3. UCF winning the series at Arizona. It is the highest ranked series won that UCF's ever had in Arizona.
What, Arizona's 4, right?
4 in the rankings, shattering every record. To put it in perspective, 2008 UCF split a doubleheader against number 9 Houston. That was the previous bet. This just in. They didn't play a lot of top 10, top 25 American Conference series back in those days. But a significant moment, Trace, to beat the brand of Arizona, which it transcended the softball. I don't know. I know you were out of town in all seriousness working, but the thing that struck me beyond on the field, but off the field, the jubilation, the excitement on social media when UCF won was incredible. Like, you would have thought it was a football win. That's how tremendous the support was.
And in the sport, Elo, right? In the sport, the watchers, the in the circle crowd, right? That's your other show. A lot of respect for UCF because they know what it means to go out and beat Arizona.
Beat Arizona. They're 19 in the RPI right now.
25th now, right? Ranked 25th
yes.
in the country.
Yeah. In one of the polls, probably other polls as well, as this taping going on. More polls come out Tuesday. Here's the big thing. 19 in the RPI. With the 8th toughest schedule in the country, Trace. 8th. They're on pace not only to have the toughest schedule in the history of the softball program, they're on track to have the toughest schedule of any UCF sport. No UCF sport has ever had a difficult schedule that's been ranked that high in any sport. It's pretty remarkable considering the youth of this team, and that's how they were able to beat Arizona. The young pitching, containing that explosive offense, and then that offensive UCF with Ashley Griffin, Aubrey Evans, coming up with big hits and offense coming around. And then Matty Simon, I don't know if you watched the highlight, the catch at center field to rob the home run on Saturday.
They don't know what they don't know, right, Elo? It was that playground mentality. Coach
Sure.
Cindy Ball Malone talked about it. Go out and have fun and play. And they just go out and do that, right? They're just having fun. They don't know what they don't know, so they're just going out and having fun and playing.
100%. And we don't know what this means moving forward in the season. I think they put themselves in great shape to make the NCAA tournament for a 5th year in a row.
Really, at this point, after the first weekend of Big 12
their
play.
resume right now is already better than last year's resume, to put that in perspective, and better than 2 years. Now, look, they got a lot of games to go. The Big 12 is very difficult, so I'm not saying they're a lock. I'm just saying they've put themselves in position to make a 5th straight NCAA tournament, which I think would be tremendous. But here's the big thing, too, the big picture, Trace. And I wrote about this on the Banneret, and we've talked about this before the season. You lose faces like Jada Cody, Shannon Doherty, Sarah Willis, Chloe Evans, right? Names that transcended beyond the softball program, that general fans followed. Would that same following continue? This series, I saw a lot of fans, not that they left, but a lot of fans now reconnect, and now they know the new faces on this team. I think big picture, there's a lot of people excited to see this team play. And with all due respect to the other UCF women's sports and Olympic sports, this is a softball school now. I don't think it's even close.
Well, a topic for a future show, perhaps. Let's switch to baseball. Baseball now, winning some games, right? They had that 3-game hiccup a week or so ago. They knock off the Gators midweek, sweep Monmouth, but still too early to tell, right? The level of competition, not quite the same to this point as softball.
No, their schedule strength's 188 coming into this week.
Siena could do that to you. Monmouth could do that to you.
Those two could do with that. It's good to see the offense coming around. It kicked off with the South Florida series win, then the Florida midweek. They pounded Florida. I got to say, Trace, there were some fans of the show that I ran into at the Florida game that told me, hey, if Trace doesn't want to come back to another baseball game, we're good with that, considering how they played without you. So, or your
remind
intern
them of that Tuesday night against Miami.
Your intern was excited. He got a chair. One of very few media people that was able to get a chair at that Florida game. But look, Miami, 91 RPM. Believe it or not, Big 12 play starts in Provo, Utah.
Thursday through Saturday. BYU doesn't play Sunday. Going to be cold. Chance of snow. A lot of snow out there in Provo.
Well, you mentioned the Miami game. That's the Tuesday night midweek, second week in a row. UCF's hosting an in-state team. How big is that for you believe for baseball to host the Miamis and the Floridas?
I think it's fine. Miami, Florida State, Florida Stetson, even South Florida, midweek game, Jacksonville, keep it in state. I'm fine with that. I think it's good for the program to play Florida, Florida State, Miami. Hey, they end up facing these teams in regionals anyway, right? So they don't leave the state. So why not, Elo? Hey, I missed a prop bet this week. You had me do some work to find out the answers, Elo. You had most steals this week. Darius Johnson, 2 games combining for 8 against the field in softball. Softball with just 3 steals, Elo. Baseball with 9 against Monmouth. Baseball wins. Nobody picked that. You and Adam had Darius Johnson. Jeff Allen went with softball. What do you got this week?
In fairness, I didn't know softball would hit 6 home runs as a team. They decided to go more power.
They didn't need small ball.
No, they didn't need small ball at all. All right. So prop bet, Big 12 tournament. All right. Who will average more points? Keyshawn Hall or Darius Johnson? However many games, 1 game, 2 games, whatever the run, who scores more points? Keyshawn Hall, Darius Johnson. Who you got? Or the field for UCF?
I'm gonna go Darius.
Last hurrah. I will go Keyshawn. I think
Keyshawn's the safe bet, right? Leading scorer.
Oh, not to Adam. It wasn't.
Time to bring back in Adam. Adam, what we get right, what we get wrong. Educate us, please.
Yeah, it wasn't the safe bet when I had first pick this weekend. All right, here's what I do know. We keep talking about quarterbacks. I don't think we're talking Cam Fancher enough. He's got the most experience. It's just a name to watch, in my opinion. Elo, you talked about the open practices. You do need to RSVP. There's a link that you have to RSVP. And funnily enough, they ask you a question. Are you a season ticket holder? The Crown basketball tournament, March 31st through April 6th, coincides with the portal, by the way, March 24th through April 22nd. That could get dicey. However, The prize allegedly is $2 million in NIL payouts to the school.
Really?
So, I think we're jumping on that.
Let's see. According to the website,
nobody's opting out of that, Elo.
$2 million to NIL payouts. You guys keep talking about the Utah coach who got fired. His name was Craig Smith. He got fired so long ago. They've hired a new coach already. His name is Alex Jensen. And you talked about the UCF baseball team. Since the drubbing at the Cows, they have scored 80 runs and they have not lost a game.
I think that's good. Thank you, Adam. Elo, one more thing before we go. How's your game during new FSU men's basketball head coach Luke Locke's press conference? He invited the media to run through one of his practices, film session, run through some drills, get the ankles taped up, get a jersey, and some food after. It does sound fun. I'm trying to think of this through the prism of UCF media. Who you got? I'm banking on Adam. I think he could carry the UCF media squad. Look for new episodes midweek, every week on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. Later, wherever you get that downloadable audio content, that's where you'll find Around the Kingdom Overtime, which we record right after this show. For Eric Lopez and Adam Eaton, I'm Trylko. Thanks, everyone, for being with us for this week's Around the Kingdom.